Lopez wants it away.
And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back, Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Always remember that home run call by Howie Rose. Mike Piazza takes the Braves deep, coming back from 9/11 on September 21st, 2001. A prodigious home run by one Mike Piazza and the Mets' all-time great catcher. Heck, one of the best catchers of all time, the best hitting catcher I've ever seen, is going to the Hall of Fame this weekend, getting inducted in Cooperstown, along with Ken Griffey Jr. And now joining us on the hotline is a man that was a manager for the New York Mets from 1996 to 2002, was Mike Piazza's manager with the Mets, and my all-time favorite New York Mets manager, and that's Bobby Valentine. Bobby, great to talk to you, and how are you?
Yeah, real good, Zach. Thanks a lot, and a lot of great memories, no doubt about that.
When you hear that home run call from Howie Rose on September 21st, 2001, and we play that back for you, and you know how much that game meant to people because it played a role in the healing process, what memories come back to mind?
Well, just that healing seemed to begin at that time, and, it's a horrific occurrence. Everybody knows that. Many of us were still bewildered when we went back to play in Pittsburgh for a day and then came back to New York. And, Mike turned the frowns upside down, and he also gave a feeling of normalcy that was really needed at that time in our city, probably in the state and across the union.
And you were talking about it. I was watching a piece on MLB.com that whenever they wanted to see you out there on the field that day, you wanted to have a smile. Why was that at that time coming back from 9/11?
Well, as you might remember, our Commander-in-Chief came, stood on the rubble, said we would never forget. When we did, in fact, come back, the commissioner gave us a notification that said, hey, when you play, it's not only going to be the good guys watching, it's going to be the bad guys watching too. And being that first game back in New York, I felt that there was some tent somewhere where one of these despicable characters were hanging out and possibly watching CNN and seeing a clip of the first game back in New York. They weren't going to see a scared face when they saw Bobby Valentine's face. They were going to see one showing the joy of being part of a great nation and a great game.
And you guys paid great tribute to the first responders that unfortunately lost their lives and all the great people that helped out in that process of wearing the hats of the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department. But what else did you guys do at that time to really just go on out there and bring a smile to some of those great officers and firefighters' face that clearly the whole nation was going through a very difficult time at that time?
Yeah, well, right before we resumed play on, I think, the 17th, I took a couple carloads of my players down to Ground Zero where we were still in a rescue effort. And, some of these guys have been going 72 hours straight or longer trying to find the remains of someone who might be left in that rubble. And, we went downtown just to try to put a smile on a couple people's faces and let them know that they were being appreciated. We brought some hats to give out, and when we did, some guys started saying, hey, we'd love to wear your hat because we love the Mets, but if the Mets could wear one of our hats for one of our fallen brothers. And it started with the New York Fire Department, and then it was the police department. And then before it was all over, all the first responders' hats were flooding the heads or donning the heads of New York Met players. And I thought it was a nice tribute, and I'm glad that guys like Todd Zeile, Robin Ventura, Mike Piazza, Benny Agbayani, guys who went down to Ground Zero, did a lot of good for a lot of people in a very short time.
Bobby Valentine joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show as we remember the career of Mike Piazza as he's going into the Hall of Fame this week. So when I look back at Mike's career with the Mets, I think of 2 home runs. That 9/11 home run at post 9/11 is the first one that comes to mind. But the next one was the one that was the craziest comeback I've ever seen when you guys were down 8-1 on June 30th, 2000, and Mike and the rest of the Mets delivered a 10-run 8th inning, and Mike had one big 3-run shot in that game to put you guys up 11-8, Bobby.
Yeah, Mike hit the big home runs, and there were a few bigger than that, but that one really was exciting. I think the entire stadium was rocking at the time, and it was some kind of comeback, no doubt. I remember one that he hit the Astrodome, though, against Billy Wagner, and at the time Billy seemed to be unhittable. He was throwing 99 to 100. He was throwing it up top. They had us up by a run, and he had a home run into the second deck in the Astrodome, which was about a $15 cab ride from home plate by the time it landed, to put us ahead and get us a win. And the next day, literally, I went up to try to find the ball. When I finally found it, I picked it up and I tried to throw it to the field where our guys were taking extra batting practice. I came up about 100 rows short, okay? And my arm was pretty good at the time.
That's absolutely great. And also in '99, he had a big home run in the NLCS as well in Game 6, and you guys went on to lose that game, though. But I would have to imagine as a manager, there was never a period of doubt when he was up and you guys needed a run that he was going to come through and deliver.
Oh, absolutely. To sit in the dugout, Zach, and have him on the lineup card, and hoping that you can do enough of maneuvering so that spot comes up again in inning 8 or 9 was always something that was forefront in my thinking. And then on those days when I tried to give him a rest, it was absolute torture to try to figure out the exact one time when he could get to the plate to be the savior and to make sure that I had it all set up so that he could actually do it. And when he pinched hit, it made a big difference in a ball game. I'll tell you that.
And I heard the story that Mike was telling, and I knew this story, that when he was getting traded from the Marlins, he went into the shower and his agent called him and he said, "Hey, looks like you're going to the Cubs." And when he came out of that shower, he was a member of the New York Mets. But in that great documentary that the MLB Network did, I was not aware that you were actually in the bathroom when you found out that Mike was coming to New York. So, well, what's up with Mike and you being both in the bathroom, separate bathrooms, of course, when he was traded?
I like that. There's the brotherhood that was established before it was established. Yeah, the bathroom brotherhood. I was, I actually was sure that he wasn't coming. I remember talking to a friend in the press corps who was just badgering me. I tried to just tell him, from my heart, believe me, man, he's not going to be a Met. Forget about it. You're not going to get beat out of any story because it's not happening. And then I, get into the bathroom as I'm sitting there contemplating the lineup. I get a little knock on the door and it says, "Hey, we just got Piazza." And you know what I wanted to say? Are you me? But I didn't. I got out, and he really was. He really was a member of the Mets.
And at that time, you already had Hundley, so that's why people were surprised when you got Piazza. And people remember Piazza, although he had that RBI in the right center field gap in his first game, but he got off to a pretty slow start with the Mets. When was that moment that you knew that Mike was going to be the player that you were all expecting when you made the trade for him?
Well, I thought he'd always be the player because uniform wasn't going to diminish the talent that was inside it. But I was hoping that he could become committed to us because that's what I thought it was really going to take for him to embrace this organization and to embrace the city. And, he was booed a little and he was challenged by it. And his world was spinning pretty quickly. And he hit a home run, I believe it was in Philadelphia, and turned the game around and got some good headlines. And before you know it, he had about 4 home runs in in 10 games, and he was getting standing ovations. And when we saw the smile on his face, which was hard to see because Mike played with that same kind of demeanor that you would think Joe DiMaggio would play with, where you wouldn't see much emotion at all. But when we see that smile, we knew it was sincere, that he had embraced the team in the city, and that was a real good thing.
There's no question he's my favorite baseball player of all time. I remember when I was growing up as a kid, I think it was 3 or 4 years straight where I was Mike Piazza for Halloween, being a kid on Long Island. But those memories of Piazza and Roger Clemens, and he was a rock star. He was bigger than life in New York, and he was someone that every Mets fan looked up to. But getting into that whole Clemens and Piazza rivalry, when Clemens drills him in 2000 in that game in the Bronx, what was your reaction?
Wow. Mike was really wearing him out. I mean, I never saw a great pitcher get hit as hard by one guy as Mike was hitting him during this stretch. And, I was looking forward, as everyone was, of the competition, that this was really something cool to see every time they went head-to-head because of what you were watching. It was greatness against greatness. And when that ball came in and Mike shrugged his shoulders and I saw that his head kind of try to evaporate into or disappear into his chest, the ball hit that helmet, and I said, "Oh my God, he might be dead." And my only concern at the time was for Mike's health.
And, of course, it escalated throughout the years and also later on in that season when you guys are in the World Series, Subway Series, and Clemens throws the broken bat at Piazza. And we were just talking to Jeff Nelson about it in the last hour. And still to this day, Bobby, I don't get how Roger mouthed the words, "I thought it was the ball." I don't get how you confuse a bat with the ball. Do you? Looking back at that, do you understand how he threw that bat at him?
Not really, even though it didn't seem as malice and act as it has grown to be. I thought of it being a over-emotional reaction to the competition that was at such a heightened peak, and all the hype and the emotion too. I saw him just catch it and throw it in the direction. I don't think Mike ever thought he was really going to get hit by it. And so Mike was like looking at him in disbelief, like, "What are you doing, man? Get yourself together, will you?" And when I got out of the dugout, that's what I was thinking too. And I saw Roger trying to get back on the mound, you let this get the best of you. You better collect yourself, man.
You had those 3 instances, really, where you had the whole thing start with Clemens going at his head and then the bat incident, and then 2 years later you had Sean Estes thrown behind him, and then you see Estes taking him deep, and Piazza took Clemens deep, and Shea Stadium was chanting, "Roger, Roger." But what was the feel with your players? What did your players have to say? How fired up were they when they saw their leader really get thrown at with the baseball and a bat at Mike Piazza from one Roger Clemens? What your players have to say?
Well, again, I'm not sure there was ever the heightened animosity of disliking Roger or even the Yankees, for that matter. But there was a heightened feeling of competition. And when Roger was on the mound, he commanded that. I mean, you had to be on your best game. Otherwise, you had a really good chance of being embarrassed. So, the guys looked forward to the competition a lot more than they did to any kind of, let's meet on 42nd Street and see if it's going to be the Mets or the Jets,
Wrapping up with Bobby Valentine, who joins us right now. So will you be in Cooperstown this weekend?
I have a flight, but I'm not sure I'm going to make it. I'm with a youth baseball team. I've been on a 40-day mission with them, playing in tournaments, learning all about this travel baseball situation. And if we continue to win, it will be like the day of one of our big championship games. And I don't think I'm going to get away. But if we lose, if we don't get to the championship, then I'm going to be there.
Well, I hope you keep on winning. So what would your message be? Because a lot of Met fans are listening right now, and they love the memories of you and Mike Piazza. What would your message be to Mike right before he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Well, we've had a couple of dinners where we've been able to honor him, and I'm proud to be at them. And my only message is that I'm proud of him, that he set out to be a Hall of Famer, and he accomplished that very lofty goal, and I'm very, very happy and proud of him.
Well, I know you do a lot of great work with the young baseball players. A friend of mine, Charles Galliano, who's trying to make the big leagues now, growing up as a kid, always learned a lot from you. But real quickly, before we let you run, now you're the big athletic director at Sacred Heart. I also saw that one of your former players, and Todd Pratt, is an athletic director as well. So what's going on with Sacred Heart right now and some of the great work you're doing there in their athletic department?
Well, thanks for asking. What we're doing is just building great people to be part of this society. You know, I have been blessed with 32 Division I sports teams who are coached by wonderful people, and we build champions and win championships is a good thing. And we're also building buildings and new facilities so that the student athletes can have a even better experience when they become a pioneer and go to Sacred Heart University. So we got a lot of stuff going on. Got a great team there, too. Can't wait to get back. I've been on a little leave of absence, actually.
Well, excellent stuff. Keep up the great work with the kids and also the college kids. Thanks so much, Bobby V. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on. Take care, Zach.
No problem. Anytime. There's Bobby Valentine, the former manager of the New York Mets from 1996 to 2002. I love me some Bobby V. I really do. The guy was just such a fun manager. And with the Mets, they had some unbelievable memories. 1999, get into the NLCS up against the Braves. Then you have in 2000, get into the World Series. And Mike Piazza going to the Hall of Fame. Just, to me, my favorite baseball player of all time. He was larger than life in New York. And he meant so much to that fan base. And with the Mets, you look at the generations. You have Seaver and Koosman. Then you have the 86 guys with Doc and Darryl. And then in the late 1990s and early 2000, you had Mike Piazza. And the great 31 is going to Cooperstown, and he's doing it right. He's getting enshrined at the Baseball Hall of Fame with the New York Mets cap. And the story, you have a guy that was a 62nd round draft pick. Not 62nd overall. 62nd round. They don't even have a 62nd round anymore. Tommy Lasorda gave him a shot. Knew Mike his entire life. And there was a lot of tension in that organization. Well, is Mike only here because of Tommy? But there were scouts that saw something in Mike. And then he was a rock star in L.A. He was. And then he had a contract dispute, traded to the Marlins. You knew it would be a short stay in Florida. And then the Mets get rid of Preston Wilson and two others. And they get Mike Piazza. And number 31, going to the Hall this weekend. Deservingly so. It's ridiculous that he's had to wait this long with all the innuendo. And then the next week, he comes back. Not to Shea Stadium, because it no longer exists, but to Citi Field. And it's Mike Piazza weekend. And on Saturday night up against the Rockies, he gets that number 31 retired. And that's right. No one should ever wear number 31 in a Mets uniform ever again, and they won't. So Mike Piazza, congratulations. Great to talk to Bobby V. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports, 920 The Jersey, 609-919-9200. We got one more segment to do. Time in the Princeton Orthopedic Associate Studios is 5:40. We'll be back. We're going to talk a little more Mike Piazza. We got a nice audio clip coming up next.